There are a few small things that I do that significantly transform my cruises, including one tiny thing I did just this week for my next cruise that took me less than 3 minutes and left me with almost $2,000 of hard cash in my pocket. I put all of these small but transformative things that I do together because I want to share with you 5 small and simple things that you can do that I genuinely believe will transform your next cruise. By the way, if you're new here, I'm Gary Bembridge, and it's my goal to make it fun and easy to discover, plan, and enjoy unforgettable cruising vacations. On my next cruise, as I record this in the Mediterranean on Azamara Quest, I did a dummy booking a month before going, and I found that my cabin grade was now half the price I paid, half, a staggering $1,800 less. I asked my travel agent to contact them, and they slashed my fare to that price, returning $1,800 to me. Now, if I had not checked and asked, I would have been sailing having paid twice the price that people booking closer to the sailing date had done. Now, before going on a cruise, one small thing I always do is to check if it's on sale cheaper than when I booked or paid for it initially. So if it has, I usually get money back, additional onboard credit, or I get an upgrade. I find the quickest and easiest is to do a dummy booking on the cruise line website. The advantage of this is the website defaults to whatever region you've booked, so it's the most comparable to your fare. I also, which again takes a few minutes, add a tracker for my cruise, cruisewatch.com/cruise price alerts. They send alerts whenever prices change, so I then know to go and double check my specific cabin grade. As cruisewatch.com doesn't track all cruise lines like UK-based lines, for example, my alternative is Cruise Critic. I search for my cruise, then I go into Fare Insight where I can set up that price tracker. There are a few watch-outs, by the way, and need to knows, a couple of things you need to check, so here they are. With one exception that I know of, Saga Cruises, the lines will not proactively adjust your fare down if they cut fares. You must contact them. Now, there are lines that make it much easier because they guarantee to match low fares if you contact them. At the time of recording, this includes Royal Caribbean, Celebrity, and Azamara. But this guarantee keeps changing. So always ask when you book your cruise, what happens if the price goes down? Make sure you know the answer. Now, I'm seeing some lines being trickier at the moment, like most of the Carnival group. For example, I've had great success with Cunard, where I've managed to get upgrades when fares have fallen, but other people have struggled to get them to budge when prices go down. Cunard arguing that the fare was locked in because of the terms and conditions of a specific promotion when they booked. So as I said, when you book a cruise, ask what happens if the price goes down. By the way, once you've paid your final balance, the lines are also less willing to match any fare reductions. So always do that dummy booking at least before you pay your final balance. Finally, be prepared to push for upgrades, of which I've had quite a few on my last few cruises because prices have been falling, or ask for extra onboard credit if they won't cut the fare. A really big tip, by the way, if you do have to settle for onboard credit, check once you're on the ship if unspent onboard credit is refundable or non-refundable, because if it's refundable, you just don't spend it and you get the cash at the end anyway. The second small thing that you can do comes with some risk. It may transform your cruise, but perhaps for the worst. And this is around the whole area of getting upgraded. This was confirmed just 2 days ago when a channel follower, Donna, messaged me to say she'd been upgraded from the ocean view cabin she'd carefully chosen and booked into a balcony cabin that was in a terrible position above a noisy nightclub and next to a rowdy bar. She was very, very upset. So what small things can you do when it comes to upgrades, and how do you avoid Donna's issue? To put you in line for an upgrade, the small step that you can take is when booking is making sure you or your travel agent has the will accept an auto upgrade option ticked. However, I never ever do this, because usually if you're auto upgraded, you have no choice but to accept whatever cabin the line upgrades you to. So you could find yourself in a cabin like Donna's. Now, my small step is actually to do the exact opposite. And I make sure that the will accept an auto upgrade is not ticked, because I like to choose my cabin, I like to choose my location, and I don't want to take the risk the so-called upgraded cabin is in a location that I dislike. But if you're not concerned about location or happy to risk it, then make sure you take that small easy step to opt into an auto upgrade. If you are concerned, then make sure, like me, that it's not ticked. Another quick thing that could transform your cruise but will cost is to bid for an upgrade. Many lines will send an email asking you to bid for an upgrade. If you're going to bid for an upgrade, bid low. Don't overbid and end up, like I see so many people do, paying the same as you would if you'd actually just booked the cabin anyway. Also, by the way, don't assume just because you get in the email there are actually upgrades. Also, take a few minutes on the second day of your cruise to swing by the front desk and ask if they've got any upgrades. Most people actually go on embarkation day when upgrade prices will actually be at their highest. But the next day, all the ones that haven't been taken, the prices will have gone down. And of course, you get a chance to check the cabin out before you go for it. While there's some risk in how these particular steps that I've just spoken around upgrades could transform your cruise, the next one that I'm going to tell you has no risk and lots of upsides in my experience. I found this one has transformed many of my cruises for very little time and effort. And it's the part way through cruise questionnaire. Many cruise lines will send out a questionnaire to your cabin a few days in or partway through a cruise asking, how are things going? It can really transform things, as I found out. What's really important to understand, in my view anyway, is the hotel director is the most important person on a cruise. And that's where the mid-cruise questionnaire comes from. Many people, of course, think the captain is the most important person. Of course, he is in terms of safety and sailing. But all the departments we as guests use, they report to the hotel director. The cabins, housekeeping, bars, dining, shore excursions, and entertainment. I've had many changes that have transformed my cruises through just taking a minute or two to use the part through cruise questionnaire. For example, I was moved on day 3 of a 10-day cruise from an ocean view to an incredible balcony cabin on Silver Sea, Silver Cloud in Antarctica. There was some annoying but not cruise ruining noise in the cabin from some machinery underneath at random times in the night. I actually mentioned this in the questionnaire, said it was a bit annoying, I was finding it a bit disturbing, but that was it. But the hotel director called me on getting that questionnaire, asked if I wanted to move. He moved me to a better location, to a balcony, and to a really quiet cabin. The person next door, by the way, did the same thing, and they were also moved. I had vibrations from the engine on a cross-Europe Mekong River cruise. Again, it was a little bit annoying. It wasn't a disaster. I mentioned it to the hotel director chatting one day at reception, and he immediately said, we've got another empty cabin up front if you'd like to move. So really important to understand the hotel director has the power to make these decisions, the power to make and change things, and the questionnaire is a great direct line to them usually. So use it and remember the hotel director getting that questionnaire could transform your cruise. But why limit transformation to just on the ship? I have another small and powerful thing that I do. I've also transformed my time in ports by making this small and not very time-consuming change. For example, on my recent Azamara Mediterranean trip that I spoke about earlier, the line offered me a choice of 7 trips in Marseille. So I went onto an independent tour provider site, shoreexcursionsgroup.com, where they offered me a choice of 18 excursions. Their options included many more active ones, unusual ones. They had e-bike tours, they had gastro tours, things that the line didn't offer me. In Monte Carlo on that same cruise, Azamara had just 3 tours plus 2 private van tour options that they cost over $1,000 a day. Shore Excursions Group site had 6 times as many tours, 17 tours in all, including driving exotic cars, and their private car tours were almost half the price of the cruise line. So just taking a couple of minutes checking independent tour provider sites could transform your whole experience in ports, as it's done with mine, with different, more exotic options, but also they often will cut your budget for excursions. The sites that I personally look at include shoretrips.com and shoreexcursionsgroup.com, but there are some others. Now those I like because they're really easy and simple, because you just input your cruise line, you input your ship and your departure date, and they bring up your itinerary and all the excursion options on the date your ship is there. So it's really, really simple, because in a couple of minutes you can transform the port into a more interesting and varied day than the cruise line is offering. There are a few small things, though, that you can still do on top of all this to actually get your fellow passengers to help transform your cruise for you. This is something that I do. One thing that takes little time to set up but provides a mine of information and help are two features that I like on cruisecritic.com. First of all, I sign up for the roll call for my cruise, and secondly, I sign up for the meet and mingle on my cruise too. In the roll calls, I can chat and discuss tips and tricks for my trip. It's particularly good, by the way, when I'm going as a solo traveler, or perhaps when I want to have a couple of familiar faces or names when I arrive on a cruise. In those roll calls, people will be arranging, getting together for pre-tours, post-tours, or even clubbing together to book private tailored van tours in some ports. The meet and mingle is also a fantastic thing. Many lines will host a cruise critic meet and mingle at the start of the cruise. There are free drinks and snacks, which is always good, but you get a chance, as I do, to talk to people who are in the roll call. Right at the beginning of the cruise, you get to know some familiar faces, you get to know people you can arrange to go to dinner with, go on tours with, meet up with. But importantly, I discover surprising tips, surprising tricks, because there's always die-hard fans of the line and those who know the ship inside out or have been on that itinerary before, and they love to share their tips and tricks. For example, the first one I ever went to, the first meet and mingle I ever went to, was on Holland America New Amsterdam in Alaska. I discovered some fantastic little known shops and places to go in Skagway and the other ports, which were really just fantastic. Now, some lines are official partners like Azamara, Carnival, Celebrity, MSC, Silversea, Royal Caribbean, Viking, so they have official partnerships, but there are some unofficial partners in the program like Holland America, as I mentioned, and went to Princess Norwegian, and they still host events. They're just not as official as the others. If you want to know other key things that I think you should do and not pay for on a cruise, join me in this video where I start with one of the big things that I regret paying for on a cruise. See you over there.